Capos are a crutch, right? Or at least you'll hear a lot of rock players say that. I know that because I'm a rock player and I used to think that same thing until I started seeing all sorts of pros using the capo. Now, what I'm going to do in this video is I'm going to show you 3 ways to use your capo that you probably haven't thought of already that will massively elevate your playing. The first great thing that you can do with a capo is assist with bar chords or anything that you're having issues with fretting, maybe some larger stretches or something like that. Because if you look at the strings as you're putting a capo down, what it does is it presses the strings down, making bar chords a cinch. Now, of course, you're not going to do this for everything and always be capoing just because of this, but it's a real encouragement, especially if you're having issues with bar chords or specific stretches that you may not have enough pressure to actually fret the note. So using the capo to just press the strings down and relieve some of that tension is a fantastic way to actually get a head start to whatever it is that you're working on and then eventually take these off. Kind of like training wheels, okay? Eventually we'll want to take them off, but great to start with. All right, so number 2, we all know that the capo is used for changing keys, right? A lot of rock players will say, well, you don't need to use a capo. I've never used a capo, right? Well, it's because rock players are playing in open keys. They're not playing in F usually, or B flat, what have you. They're playing in E, E minor, A minor, D, G, C, those open keys where they have the open chords and what have you, and it's much easier to play in. But second you tell that rock player to go down a half step or up a half step, now they're going to be lost. Enter the capo. That's why you see people using a capo. So the reason that they think they don't need capos is they're playing everything in an open key, but the second you change the key on them, they're going to be lost, right? And again, I'm a rock player, so no hate, whatever. It's just, it's a paradigm that people need to get through. So we know that this allows us to change the key, right? If we're playing a G and a D and a C, you know, and you're learning a song and it says capo 1, G, C, D, well, then we're not playing in G or C or D anymore. Now it's G sharp, C sharp, and D sharp, right? But we think about the same thing, the form, so we just move this up here. And that's great. We want to be able to change keys, but if you keep everything in the feel of G major and C major, those 2 keys are very closely related. They're only 1 note apart. The key of C has no sharps or flats. The key of G has 1 sharp, the F. And so by doing this, by keeping your songs in the feel of G or the feel of C, man, you make everything a lot easier. Now, if you want to complicate guitar, there's plenty of things we can do to complicate it. I've never known someone to try to make it more difficult unless they're just driven by ego. Otherwise, we're trying to make things easier because ultimately we want to create music. We're not weightlifting here, right? If you think about, if you wanted to play a song in the key of G sharp, then obviously just putting the capo down here would allow you to now play in the key of G sharp. Sometimes people will say to me, okay, Eric, that's great, but what if I wanted to play in the key of B and I have a C here? A capo is not going to help me to go down. It will, because instead of playing in C, if you keep everything in the key of G, let's say you wanted to play B, right? Here's a B. Then if we find a B on the E string, now we can capo right here, and now we can play that same song, but in the key of B, but it has that feel of G major where we have all those nice open chords, right? Otherwise, you're going to be struggling with a bunch of bar chords, which is going to lock up some of your fingers, and you can't do a lot of chord noodling or other little melodic embellishments and that sort of thing. So if you can keep things in the key of G major and C major, it's very helpful. A third thing that you can do with a capo is you could do like a faux alternate tuning. Now this is just a standard capo, so I'm going to show you how we can do a drop D or a faux drop D tuning here in just 1 second. However, they do make capos that have individual notches that you can adjust and put on the guitar that will only capo whatever strings you have adjusted there, right? So check that out. Now I'm just going to use a standard capo here, and I'm going to capo here at the 2nd fret, strings 1 through 5, okay? Now, if you've ever played a drop D tuning, you just take your E string and you drop it to the key of D, and then you could play, you know, Doobie Brothers, Blackwater, and those sorts of songs, right? So what this does is if I hit a D chord now, I get that nice low Now technically that's an E, so even though we're capoed up a whole step and it looks like a D, we're actually in the key of E. So now when I play what looks like a D chord, it's actually an E, and I got that low E sound in there. So we can do some fun So you can have some fun doing this. You can experiment with some different bits and pieces here, but man, get to use the capo. Let's get over that paradigm that capos are for noobs or are a crutch, because in Nashville and all the pro studios, you'll always find those pros having a capo on their guitar. Friends, I'm passionate about your success on the guitar. I have lots of free courses and free content over at YourGuitarSage.com. I'm here to help you. I'm standing by. Let me know. Like, subscribe, all that good stuff. Leave your comments. I'll see you in the next video.